What does it mean to be powerful? Is it about shouting the loudest, commanding attention, or making people fear you through intimidation? That's what we're often taught. We grow up believing that the ones who speak the most, move the fastest, or dominate the spotlight must be the strongest. But the truth is far more subtle. True power isn't loud, it's not flashy, and it never begs to be recognized. Real power is quiet, intentional, still, and it's felt long before it's seen. Picture this. You're standing face to face with a wild predator. It doesn't growl, it doesn't charge, it just stares. Calm, unwavering, assessing. And that silence? It's terrifying. Why? Because it reveals total control. That's the kind of presence that makes others pause, rethink, and respect you without a word. Or imagine a chess grandmaster. His opponent fidgets, sweats, scrambling to predict the next move. But the master sits motionless. His stillness isn't passivity. It's precision, strategy, and confidence that needs no announcement. That's the essence of real power. And the Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." To the Stoics, power wasn't about ruling others. It was about ruling yourself. It meant not letting emotions control you, not reacting to every insult or distraction, and not needing anyone's validation to feel worthy. In today's world of noise, speed, and constant comparison, this kind of silent strength is rare, but more important than ever. Because when you master yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your presence, people can feel it. They may not understand why, but they'll notice something different about you. You become harder to shake, harder to manipulate, and harder to ignore. Let me ask you this. Who would you follow? The one who yells the loudest, or the one who speaks with calm, grounded conviction? Who do you respect more? The one who always boasts, or the one who lets their presence and results speak for themselves? In this video, we're going to explore 9 silent strategies from Stoic philosophy that will teach you how to build that kind of power. Not through force, not through noise, but through self-mastery, discipline, and presence. If you're ready to stop being reactive and start becoming untouchable, stay with me. Because this journey isn't about impressing the world, it's about owning yourself. Let's begin. 1. Master your emotions. Let me tell you something most people never realize. The moment you react emotionally, you give your power away. It's easy to believe that defending yourself, clapping back, or proving your point makes you strong. But real strength, real control, it's in the pause. It's in the ability to stay calm when everything inside you wants to explode. There was a man I knew, let's call him Victor. He worked in a competitive office, and there was this one colleague who made it his mission to get under Victor's skin. Sarcastic remarks in meetings, public jabs in front of the team. At first, Victor did what most of us would do. He defended himself, argued back, and tried to prove he wasn't weak. But the more he reacted, the more power he gave away. And that's when he realized he wasn't controlling the situation. The situation was controlling him. So Victor changed his approach. The next time the insults came, he said nothing. No reaction, no flinch, just calm, collected silence. And something fascinating happened. His enemy grew frustrated, confused. The insults lost their bite. The provocation no longer worked. Eventually, the attack stopped completely. Why, bae? Because Victor stopped playing the game. He understood that emotional control is a form of dominance. When you can't be rattled, you become unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're untouchable. The Stoics preached this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." They believed that letting others control your emotions is the quickest path to weakness. So how do you master your emotions in a world constantly trying to provoke you? First, know your triggers. You can't prepare for what you don't understand. What rattles you? What buttons do people push? Identify them, then breathe. Pause before you speak. Let the wave pass. A moment of silence can prevent a lifetime of regret. Finally, reframe calmness as power. Staying composed doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're in command. Look, life is chaotic. People will test you. Pressure will rise. But if you can stay grounded while others lose their cool, you will rise above them every single time. Emotions are not the enemy. Lack of control is. So take your power back. Be like Victor. Be like the Stoics. Master your emotions, and you master your life. 2. Maintain an unshakable presence. There's a kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't demand attention, and doesn't beg to be seen. It simply walks into a room and is felt. We've all experienced it before, maybe at work or in a room full of people. That one person walks in. They're not loud, they're not flashy, but suddenly the energy shifts. People straighten up, conversations quiet. Why? Because true presence doesn't need to prove itself. There was a man I once knew. We'll call him Marcus. He was never the loudest in the room. He didn't try to dominate conversations. He didn't name drop or show off. But whenever Marcus entered a space, people noticed. His posture, solid. His gaze, focused. His movements were calm and deliberate. You could tell he knew exactly who he was, and that kind of confidence, it's magnetic. This is what the Stoics understood centuries ago. They taught that power isn't about speaking the most. It's about being the most. It's about embodying stability in a world that constantly wobbles. And here's the key. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. When you stand tall, shoulders back, head high, you tell the world, I am not here to shrink. When you move with intention, every step grounded, you broadcast, I know why I'm here. And when you sit in silence, not because you're unsure, but because you're observing, you show control, patience, and strength. Silence is not weakness. Silence is mastery. In a society that encourages oversharing, overtalking, and over-explaining, your stillness becomes revolutionary. Think about it. How often do we try to fill the air with noise just to feel important? But what if you didn't need to say anything at all? Let me ask you this. Do people respect you because you demand it or because your presence commands it? If you want to cultivate that kind of presence, start here. First, fix your posture. It's not just about looking confident. It makes you feel confident. Shoulders back, chin up. Own your space. Then move with purpose. Stop rushing. Every step, every motion, make it intentional. Finally, embrace silence. You don't need to fill every pause with words. Let others feel your stillness. Let them lean in. Remember, the most powerful people aren't always the loudest. They're often the ones who don't need to speak to be heard. So carry yourself like someone who knows who they are, because when you do, the world listens, even in your silence. 3. Let your actions speak. Here's something we all need to remember. Talk is cheap, results are priceless. In a world where everyone's announcing their next big move, bragging about their goals, or preaching their potential, you stand out by doing the one thing most won't. You execute. You deliver. You let your actions speak. It's easy to talk about what you're going to do. It feels good to say, I'm going to start this business, or I'm finally getting in shape, or one day I'll write that book. But how many people actually follow through? Not many, because words are easy, work is hard. There was a guy I used to know, let's call him Adrian. He was always talking about his ambitions, the businesses he wanted to start, the money he planned to make, the impact he was going to leave on the world. At first, people listened, they even got excited. But as time went on and nothing changed, people stopped taking him seriously. He talked big, but nothing ever happened. Then one day, Adrian stopped talking. No more long speeches, no more promises. He just got to work. Quietly, relentlessly. No updates, no announcements, just discipline. And slowly, everything changed. People started noticing, not because he said anything, but because his life started reflecting the very goals he used to talk about. His body transformed, his projects launched, his confidence grew, and those who once doubted him, now they respected him. That's the power of silent progress. When you show up every single day, put in the work, and stay consistent, your results speak volumes. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to prove anything, because your life becomes the proof. So how do you apply this in your own life? First, be consistent. Even small actions, done daily, compound into massive results. Then pursue excellence. Don't just check boxes. Strive to be exceptional at what you do. Finally, stay patient. Great things take time, but persistence beats perfection every time. Let me ask you, do you want to be the one everyone hears or the one everyone remembers? Because when your actions align with your words, when you stop performing for applause and start building in silence, you become unstoppable. You don't need to speak loudly to be respected. You just need to live in a way that leaves no room for doubt. Let your work speak for itself and watch the world fall silent to listen. If any of this resonates with you so far, don't forget to subscribe. There's more powerful insight coming up. 4. Don't react to insults. Here's a truth that might sting a little. The moment you emotionally react to an insult, you reveal exactly where you can be controlled. Most people think that defending themselves proves strength, that firing back shows power, but the exact opposite is true. When someone insults you and you get angry, flustered, or try to prove them wrong, you're playing their game. You're letting their words dictate your emotions. And in that moment, you lose control. True strength is when someone tries to provoke you and you give them nothing. No reaction, no emotion, no power. There was a woman I once knew, let's call her Celeste. She worked in a high-pressure environment, and one of her co-workers made it their mission to tear her down. Snide remarks in meetings, gossip behind her back, constant attempts to trigger her. At first, Celeste did what most of us would. She defended herself. She tried to prove her worth, but the more she engaged, the worse it got. Then she made a shift. The next time her coworker made a sarcastic jab, Celeste didn't flinch. She said nothing. She didn't even blink. She just kept working, calm, composed, unaffected, and everything changed. The insult started losing power. The coworker grew frustrated, confused, because they couldn't get a rise out of her anymore. Over time, the attack stopped altogether. Why? Because Celeste stopped feeding the fire. She learned the most powerful response is no response at all. The Stoics mastered this art centuries ago. Epictetus taught that insults only carry meaning if you choose to give them meaning. You can't control what others say, but you can absolutely control how you respond. So how do you train this kind of emotional mastery? First, develop awareness. When an insult comes your way, pause. Don't react immediately. Recognize the trap. Then stay still. Let the words pass through you. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Finally, practice indifference. Remember, reacting gives them control. Refusing to react gives you control. Let me ask you this. Who's more powerful, the one who gets triggered by every insult, or the one who's so centered, so confident they can't be touched? You don't owe anyone your energy. Not every attack deserves a response. And sometimes the most savage reply is complete silence. When you master the art of not reacting, you take back your peace, your focus, your power. Be calm, be grounded, be untouchable. 5. Control what others know about you. Here's a truth they don't teach you in school. The more people know about you, the easier it is for them to control you. We live in a world obsessed with transparency. Be open, they say. Share everything. But the Stoics taught us something different. Guard your inner world, not because you have something to hide, but because you have something to protect. When people know your fears, your weaknesses, your goals, your insecurities, they gain leverage. They know what buttons to push. They know how to shake your balance. And worse, they can use your own truth against you. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. We'll call him Damon. Damon believed in radical honesty. He was open about everything, his struggles, his dreams, his frustrations. At first, people appreciated his vulnerability. It felt real. It felt human. But over time, that transparency cost him. If Damon shared that he was feeling overwhelmed, suddenly more pressure was put on him. If he expressed doubt, colleagues started questioning his abilities. His words were twisted, used, and his own openness became ammunition for others. That's when Damon decided to change. He stopped oversharing. He didn't lie. He simply became more selective. He kept his plans close, his emotions protected, and his presence mysterious, unpredictable. And guess what happened? People started respecting him more. Why? Because when you become unreadable, you become unshakable. This is the power of mystery. You control the narrative when you control what others know. You become harder to manipulate, harder to predict, and that makes you powerful. So how do you apply this in your own life? First, be mindful of what you share. Not every struggle needs to be broadcast. Not every dream needs a microphone. Then embrace unpredictability. When people can't predict your next move, they can't block it. Finally, control perception. Share strength when it serves you. Share vulnerability only with those who've earned your trust. Let me ask you, when people look at you, do they see a fully open book, or do they see a composed, strategic force that they can't quite figure out? Because the less they know, the harder it is for them to define you. And when they can't define you, they can't control you. So protect your energy, guard your vision. And remember, being private isn't being weak, it's being wise. Be the one who moves quietly and strikes with clarity, the one they can't read, because you've already written your path. in silence. 6. Move in silence. Let me ask you something. What if the loudest thing about you was your success? In a world addicted to announcing, updating, and oversharing, what if you did the opposite? What if you moved in silence and let your results make the noise? We've been conditioned to believe that talking about your plans somehow makes them more real. But here's the truth. Every time you announce your next move, you expose it. And what's exposed can be challenged, criticized, delayed, or even sabotaged. There was a woman I once knew, Naomi, brilliant, ambitious, passionate. She used to share everything, her goals, her ideas, her visions. Friends, coworkers, even strangers online knew what she was working in, but slowly she noticed something strange. The more she talked about what she was going to do, the harder it became to actually do it. People gave unsolicited opinions. Some doubted her, others flat out tried to interfere. And the worst part? All that noise started making her doubt herself. So Naomi made a powerful shift. She stopped announcing her plans. She started moving in silence. No more explanations. No more external validation. Just action. And that's when everything started to fall into place. Her focus sharpened. Her confidence grew. And when she finally succeeded, there was nothing left for anyone to question, because the results spoke for themselves. This is the power of quiet progress. When no one knows what you're planning, no one can stop you. There's no resistance, no distraction, no outside pressure. So how do you move in silence without losing momentum? First, keep your plans private. You don't owe the world a roadmap. Let them see the destination when you arrive. Then block out unnecessary voices. Advice is everywhere, but not all of it is helpful. Trust your vision. Finally, let your success speak. When the work is done, when the results are visible, people will notice, and they'll respect you, not because you talked, but because you delivered. Think about it. What's more powerful? Saying, I'm going to do something great, or doing something great and letting the world discover it on their own? The Stoics didn't boast. They didn't explain. They built. They acted. They embodied. So stop announcing. Start building. Silence isn't emptiness. It's discipline. It's clarity. And it's power that no one sees coming until it's too late to stop. Move in silence. Let your results speak louder than any words ever could. Be unapologetically yourself. Let me say this clearly, and without hesitation, there is nothing more powerful than a person who refuses to apologize for being exactly who they are. We live in a world that constantly tries to shape us, to fit in, to tone it down, to be more like everyone else. But here's the truth. The more you try to blend in, the more you disappear. Being authentic in a world that wants you to conform is not just rare, it's radical. There was a man I once knew, we'll call him Elias. For years, he bent over backwards trying to fit in. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. He downplayed his success so others wouldn't feel insecure. He shifted his personality depending on who he was with, just to be accepted. But deep down, he was exhausted. He wasn't being rejected for who he truly was. He was being accepted for a mask. One day, Elias hit a breaking point. He decided to stop playing the part. He started speaking his truth. He stopped apologizing for his beliefs, his values, and his personality. And do you know what happened? Yes, some people walked away, but the ones who stayed, they respected him more than ever. Not because he tried to please them, but because he finally respected himself. That's the shift. That's the power. When you stop needing approval, you stop being controlled. You become immune to opinions, judgments, and social games because you're no longer chasing acceptance. You're rooted in authenticity. So how do you live this way? First, stop seeking validation. You're not here to meet someone else's expectations. Your worth isn't determined by their approval. Then, embrace your uniqueness, your quirks, your passion, your voice. Those are your greatest assets. What makes you different is exactly what makes you powerful. Finally, set your own standards. Don't live by rules designed to keep you small. Create a life that reflects who you are, not who they want you to be. Let me ask you, are you living for approval or are you living with purpose? Because once you stop apologizing for your truth, something incredible happens. People either respect you or they walk away. And either way, you win. Be real. Be bold. Be fully, fearlessly yourself, because in a world full of copies, the original always stands out. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs you, exactly as you are. Embrace what you can't control. Amor fati. What if I told you the greatest strength you could ever build is the ability to embrace everything life throws at you, even the pain? There's a powerful concept in Stoic philosophy called amor fati. It means love of fate, not just accepting your fate, not just enduring it, but loving it, all of it, the good, the barren, the beautiful, the brutal. Why? Because every moment, no matter how difficult, can become a gift if you choose to see it that way. Think about it. How much of our suffering comes from trying to fight what we can't control? We resist, we complain, we ask, why maybe? But what if instead you said, why not me? What if every setback, every disappointment, every hardship was actually shaping you into someone stronger? This is the mindset that changes lives. The Stoics believe that peace doesn't come from avoiding chaos. It comes from learning how to stand still within it. You don't control the storm, but you can control how you respond to it. Imagine waking up and saying, whatever happens today, I will not only accept it, I will find meaning in it. That's not weakness. That's power. Here's how you live it. First, recognize what's outside your control. You can't control traffic, illness, the economy, other people's opinions. Trying to change these things only leads to frustration. Then stop resisting reality. Acceptance is not giving up. It's saying, this is what is now. How will I grow from it? Finally, turn adversity into advantage. The loss, the delay, the detour. It can all become fuel. Every challenge holds a lesson. Every hardship builds muscle. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when everything felt like it was falling apart. Plans crumbled, people walked away, nothing made sense. But looking back, that season taught me more than any victory ever could. It forced me to build resilience, to surrender control, to grow. That's the beauty of amor fati. It transforms your mindset from victim to warrior. From why is this happening to me to this is happening for me. So let me ask you, are you spending your energy trying to change what you can't? Or are you learning to love your path, even the parts you didn't choose? When you embrace what is, when you lean into every moment with grace and strength, you become unstoppable. Love your fate, even the storm. because sometimes that storm is what builds the mountain you'll stand on. 9. Observe without judgment. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is say nothing. React to nothing, judge nothing, at least not right away. Because in a world that rewards quick opinions and instant reactions, the real power belongs to the quiet observer. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that wisdom begins not with speaking, but with seeing clearly, calmly, without letting emotions distort the view. You see, the moment we judge too quickly, based on appearance, tone, or assumption, we stop seeing the truth. We see what our emotions want us to see, and often that leads us straight into unnecessary conflict, regret, or misunderstanding. But what if you paused? What if, before reacting, you gave yourself just a moment to observe, to breathe, to process? Let me share something from experience. Years ago, I walked into a situation thinking someone had intentionally disrespected me. I felt the heat rise, ready to defend myself. But instead of reacting, I paused, I listened, I asked questions. And you know what? It wasn't personal. It wasn't malicious. It was a misunderstanding. Had I reacted in anger, I would have damaged something valuable over nothing. That's the power of observation. It gives you time to gather truth before delivering judgment. So how do you put this into practice? First, delay your reaction. When something triggers you, stop. Count to 5. Let the wave pass. You don't owe anyone an immediate response. Then use reason, not emotion. Ask yourself, what are the facts here? What do I know versus what do I feel? That gap is where clarity lives. Finally, separate story from reality. Your mind is quick to create narratives, but just because you think something doesn't make it true. Choose to see, not assume. Let me ask you, how much pain in your life came not from what happened, but from how you interpreted it? When you learn to watch the world without instantly judging it, you gain control, not just over your surroundings, but over yourself. And in that stillness, you become more than just reactive. You become strategic, centered, free. So next time you're tempted to snap, to speak, to judge, don't just watch. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. So here's the truth that ties everything together. You don't need to shout to be heard or chase respect to be respected. You just need to live your worth quietly, consistently, every single day. When you begin to master your emotions, when you stop reacting to every insult, every challenge, every petty opinion, when you move in silence with intention, not seeking praise or applause, you become something rare in this world. You become untouchable, not because you're trying to look powerful, but because you've built that power from the inside out. Real strength isn't in domination, it's in discipline. It's not in shouting louder, it's in staying silent when it counts. It's not in always being right, it's in knowing you don't need to convince anyone. Let me ask you, how many people do you know who are constantly explaining themselves, chasing approval, trying to prove they're worthy? Now think about the people you quietly respect, the ones who don't talk much, but when they do, you listen. The ones who don't boast, but their results speak volumes. The ones who walk into a room and shift the energy without saying a word. That can be you, and it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. by choosing mastery over impulse, by choosing calm over chaos, by choosing presence over performance. Here's the formula. Simple but not easy. Control your emotions. Delay your reactions. Move in silence. Live without needing approval. And above all, be unapologetically you. When you do these things, no one can manipulate you, no one can define you, and no one, not critics, not chaos, not failure, can defeat you because you're not playing their game. You're playing your own. And the strongest person in any room isn't the one demanding attention. It's the one who doesn't need it. So as you walk forward in life, remember this. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be solid, grounded, clear, and true to yourself. The world will either respect you or misunderstand you. Let them. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be unstoppable. You've just completed the journey through 9 silent strategies of Stoicism. If this brought you value, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because the most powerful transformations always begin in silence.